In part 1 of this episode, we began to discuss the top 10 grievous sins committed in Jehovah's organization, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania. We covered the first category of heinous sins that can get you kicked out of the Watchtower Society. In today's episode, we deal with the remaining most serious, grievous sins that get you disfellowshipped. And the next sin is sin number 4. We turn to the most defining sins, sexual immorality or porneia. And in many cases, if not most cases, you'll be required to explain graphically in detail what happened. I've done a video about this entitled Shocking Explicit Infidelity Details JW Elders Want to Know. I'll leave a link at the end of this video so that you can be able to watch that one. Now, imagine they are so graphic, they go to an extent of even wanting to know whether you experienced orgasm. Just imagine. And think of it. You are talking about 3 or 4 men talking to a woman probably the age of their daughter and asking her to explain this detail, such graphic detail, such person, such so intimate and so personal. It is traumatizing, it is disgusting and unacceptable. Here is a clip.
So after the whole scenario happens, like you go up in front of a judicial committee, right?
Correct.
And how many elders are there?
So the process is that initially there will be 2 elders to investigate whether or not a judicial committee needs to be formed. And then the actual judicial committee is 3 brothers. But in my case, they asked me, was it one time that you had sex with this person? Was it multiple times? Are you still in contact with them? They also asked if we used birth control. They also asked if I had an orgasm, interestingly enough, because apparently that indicates if I really wanted to do it or not. I'm not sure. Overall, it was very invasive. And afterwards, once they've gathered all that information, you're asked to leave the room. And then you'll be called back in with a decision. My decision took about 15 minutes or so. Which felt like a long time, but when you think about it, isn't that long, considering that you're essentially handing out that person to be shunned from their friends and their family.
What kind of questions did they ask you at the judicial meeting?
Were you touching each other's genitals? Were you stroking each other? How much were you doing it? How long were you doing it? How many times did you do it? On what days were you doing it? What times? And what setting was that happening? Did you orgasm? All these super explicit details. It's like they wanted a play-by-play, right, of everything that you did. And at the time, I just gave them all this info, right? I was just like, oh yeah, okay, that was this, and this. And I look back and I was like, this is none of your business, right? This is so invasive. This is crossing so many boundaries.
If you are enjoying this video, kindly do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you receive a notification. This sin is spoken about by Stephen Late as the most common sin for which many Jehovah's Witnesses are disfellowshipped. Here is a clip.
In fact, it may well be that Satan's most effective trap against Jehovah's people in these last days is materialism. But now you might be thinking, well, isn't sexual immorality by far the number 1 cause for disfellowshipping? That's true. But we don't have figures for ones who fall away to materialism. They're not disfellowshipped. And furthermore, how many who succumbed to sexual immorality were first weakened spiritually by materialism? Well, at least we can say that materialism is one of Satan's most effective tools or traps against Jehovah's people today.
But what if your sin isn't about pleasure, but about love? What happens if you refuse to turn your back against family? That is sin number 3. Refusing to shun a disfellowshipped person. If you keep contact with a disfellowshipped person, even a family member living outside your home, you may be considered disloyal to Jehovah and subject to disfellowshipping yourself. So it is either shun or be shunned. And many who have refused to shun their relatives have actually been shunned. Here is a clip.
Well, this presents a challenge to each of us when it is a beloved friend or relative who is disfellowshipped. Will we be submissive and yield to the judgment of the elders who handle the matter? We should accept the fact that they are in a position to be more objective than we are. The elders pray hard about these decisions, knowing that they will render an account to God.
Next, one of the most common and surprising reasons JWs are removed or disfellowshipped: celebrations. We are looking at sin number 2, celebrating holidays, false religion. Birthdays, Christmas, national holidays, interfaith events are all considered as part of Babylon the Great or false religion. Participation can mark you spiritually impure and is one of the most common triggers of judicial action. Let's watch a clip of a woman who could not make spiritual progress in JW because she was working as a secretary in a Christian church. And here is what she said.
Right about the time I started studying the Bible, an opportunity came up for me to start doing secretarial work at a church. I was the one who cared for all of the money that the church would receive. But at that moment, I didn't see any problem with staying where I worked.
I studied the Bible and learned that the festivals I used to participate in were displeasing to Jehovah. But it did not seem possible that I would be the only one not participating in those festivals. These opportunities brought families closer together, and they were fun too.
One night at a meeting, I was talking with an elder, and he told me that I wouldn't even be able to give student parts at the Kingdom Hall, since I was still working as a secretary at the church. That made me very sad, because I found myself just receiving guidance from Jehovah and learning His truth. But I was not giving back anything to Him despite what He was doing for me.
Finally, we reach the most feared sin of all, the one that gets you shunned instantly. For this sin, you are not just shunned by the congregation, you are not just shunned by your friends, you are not just shunned by your family, you are also shunned by Jehovah. And what sin is that? Apostasy. At the top of the Watchtower's list sits apostasy. It is considered as the ultimate betrayal. This isn't a single misstep, but a willful rejection of core doctrines. It can start with quietly questioning a teaching or reading outside literature and can spiral into fully abandoning the faith. Now, apostasy covers a wide spectrum and can include the following: openly criticizing the governing body, affiliating with other religions, or engaging with the so-called apostates on the web and books. Even private doubts, if discovered, can trigger a judicial committee. But I wonder what most of you Jehovah's Witnesses who watch my videos are doing on this channel. You mean you are not afraid of apostasy? I'm sure. I know the reason, because you use YouTube IDs, so you cannot be discovered. Now, why is this so feared? It is because it is seen as contagion. One apostate can betray many. The manual warns elders to act swiftly, making apostasy the sin most likely to guarantee disfellowshipping. And when apostasy rips a person from a spiritual home, what hope remains? Here is a clip.
First, let's talk about apostasy.
and we'll call it spiritual poison. Now think about poison. What's the best way to avoid being poisoned? Well, we have to recognize poison when we see it and then avoid it. And the same principle applies to teachings that could destroy our faith. And that's not always easy. Now, not many of our brothers and sisters would deliberately get involved with apostates, but it could happen without our realizing it. We receive letters at times from brothers and sisters who are troubled by something they saw on a web page, an accusation, a rumor about the society or about the organization. And the problem is, they had no idea that apostates were behind it. It's tricky, because the apostates don't advertise, "You are now on an apostate web page." They often pose as sincere witnesses who just have questions or concerns. And some who aren't really apostates can cause just as much trouble as the apostates do by their negative talk and criticism. Brothers, we need to be on the alert. This is serious. Suppose that, out of curiosity, you get into a discussion forum with individuals who claim to be Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. You don't know. You've never met them. And someone starts asking questions. What did you think of last month's broadcast? Did you really find it encouraging? Or do you think the brothers who write Watchtower articles are living in the real world? I wonder if they realize just how hard it is out here. And then a few others join in with their own negative comments. Now, you don't know whether these individuals are apostates or just brothers and sisters who are in serious spiritual trouble. But does it matter? How does it make you feel? When you leave the forum, do you feel upbuilt? Determined to expand your ministry? More convinced than ever that Jehovah has an organization that you love and that you're delighted to be a part of. You feel honored to be a part of that organization. Or does the experience leave you sad, uneasy, uncomfortable?
When I was in my 40s, I was divorced. I had 3 younger kids at home. I was working 3 jobs, and I had drifted away from the congregation. I had an acquaintance who was telling me that I was in a cult and that I needed to look at some information that he had. As I was reading this literature, I saw through it to an extent. But when you're drifting away, you're looking for a reason not to believe. Well, one Sunday morning, I rode by the Kingdom Hall, and I said to myself, "Oh, they're all in there waiting for Armageddon." Immediately, when I thought that thought, I said to myself, "Well, at least they feel good about themselves. How do you feel?" And the answer was, I felt terrible. I realized that relationship with Jehovah, that's our most precious possession. I had to get back. How loving Jehovah is. He wants to help us. And what better helper could we have? He's the best in the universe.
Now, these aren't just sins in a theological sense. In the Jehovah's Witnesses world, they are identity killers. They separate you from your family, your social network, your spiritual life. And worst of all, the decision isn't made by God. It's made by 3 men behind the closed door.
We're here to help you, Meg. I want you to remember that as we go through the meeting, okay? And I know you can only see me and Rory and Ollie, but trust me, Jehovah is right here as well, right now, in the room with us, okay?
Thank you.
At this time, you have an opportunity to make a statement.
I spent the night with Sam.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by that? Did you have sexual intercourse?
Mom was away.
Stay tuned until next time when we look at how to be reinstated after disfellowshipping. So what do you think? Are these rules protective or controlling? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you have enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you receive a notification. And if you think more people should know about this truth, kindly share with them. You can share with as many people as you want. For the video that I mentioned, shocking explicit details that JW elders ask for, click on this link. To watch other videos about disfellowshipping, click on this playlist. If you did not watch part 1 of this episode, click on this link.